It always starts as a dare. A dark bathroom. The lights switched off. Just one candle flickering on the sink. You lean toward the mirror, your friends whispering outside the door, and you whisper her name. Once, twice, 3 times. That's when the stories say the glass stops reflecting you and starts reflecting something else. A pale face that isn't yours. Eyes that don't blink when you do. A smile that doesn't belong to you. We all know her name, but have you ever asked yourself why speaking it is so dangerous? Because a mirror is not just glass. It's a portal, a trap, a silent twin that mimics your every move until it doesn't. Folklore warns us that mirrors can hold spirits, capture souls, and show us futures we were never meant to see. They are thresholds, fragile boundaries between our world and something else pressing just beyond the glass. And when you speak a name into that darkness, you're not just playing a game, you're making an invitation. So tonight, we're going to step through those stories together. From the childhood dare of Bloody Mary, to cursed statues, vengeful spirits, and the real-life horror of a woman who died because a killer came through her mirror. If you love exploring the darkest corners of folklore, make sure you subscribe to Horror Across Borders and hit that notification bell. Because you won't want to miss the shadows waiting in the glass. To really get a handle on the power we give to mirrors, we have to start with the most famous name of all, Bloody Mary. For generations, this legend has been a grim rite of passage, a dare whispered at sleepovers and in shadowy bathrooms, the air thick with anticipation and fear. The ritual itself sounds deceptively simple. Stand before a mirror in a pitch-black room, a single candle flame dancing in the darkness, and chant her name. 3 times, 13 times, maybe even 100 times, depending on the version you heard, and she will appear. But who or what appears? That's where the story splinters into 1,000 horrifying possibilities. Some say the face that slowly resolves in the glass is a corpse, skin stretched too tightly across bone, like it doesn't belong there. Others say it is a witch, her face twisted in a hateful grimace, or a ghost dripping with blood that isn't hers. The consequences for seeing her are just as varied and terrifying. Legend has it, she might just scream at you, a sound that will echo in your nightmares for years. She might curse you to a life of misery, or she might reach right through the cold, hard glass as if it were water, her long fingers aiming to strangle you, steal your soul, or scratch your eyes from their sockets. The identity of Mary herself is a mystery shrouded in historical tragedy. Many point to Queen Mary I of England, whose brutal 5-year reign saw the execution of so many Protestants that it earned her the eternal nickname Bloody Mary. Her personal history was marked by profound tragedy, most notably by phantom pregnancies. Desperate for a Catholic heir, the Queen twice went into confinement, believing herself to be with child, only for her body to betray her, producing nothing. This deep personal grief could easily explain the most heartbreaking versions of the legend, where the spirit who appears is holding a dead infant, weeping for a child she never had. Others believe she was a local woman executed for witchcraft, her soul bound to the instruments of vanity, or perhaps a beautiful woman who was horribly disfigured in an accident, her spirit trapped in the mirror she once adored. But the Bloody Mary ritual also plugs into a much older, more innocent tradition of mirror divination, or catoptromancy. For centuries, young women would perform rituals in darkened rooms, using reflective surfaces like polished metal or bowls of water, hoping the mirror would reveal the face of their future husband. There was always a terrible risk, though. Instead of a handsome groom, they might see a skull staring back from the depths of the glass. A grim omen that they were destined to die before ever marrying. This chilling blend of hope and horror is what makes the legend so powerful. It preys on our fundamental desire to see the unknown, while reminding us that some doors, once opened, can never be closed again. So, have you ever tried it? Or were you too afraid of what you might see looking back at you? While Bloody Mary might be the queen of mirror legends, she's far from the only entity you can call on. Down in Maryland, a local legend grew so terrifying that it eventually twisted itself into mirror folklore, creating a unique and disturbing ritual. This is the story of Black Aggie. It didn't start with a mirror. It started with a statue. In Druid Ridge Cemetery in Pikesville, a grim, cloaked figure of grief sat watch over the Angus family plot. This imposing bronze statue, a replica of a more famous one in Washington, D.C., quickly developed a dark reputation all its own, earning the name Black Aggie. Locals swore that no grass would ever grow in the ground touched by its shadow, and that at the stroke of midnight, its shrouded eyes would glow with a malevolent red light. They said the spirits of the dead would gather around the statue at night, drawn to its sorrowful and menacing presence. The curse had many flavors. It was whispered that if a pregnant woman passed too close, she'd suffer a miscarriage. But the most frightening part of the legend was reserved for the bravest or most foolish among them. The dare was that anyone who sat in Black Aggie's cold stone lap at midnight would be met with death, either crushed in her unmoving bronze arms or so overwhelmed with pure terror that their heart would simply give out. The story became a sick staple of local fraternity hazing rituals, where pledges were dared to spend a night with the haunted figure. One popular and chilling tale tells of a young man who was forced by his fraternity brothers to sit on her lap as the clock struck 12. As his friends watched from a distance, they saw the statue's eyes begin to glow and its arms slowly, impossibly, move to embrace him. They took off running in a panic. When the groundskeeper came to investigate the noise, he found the boy dead, his face frozen in a mask of pure terror. The legend grew so powerful that it bled into other traditions, merging with the mirror lore we fear most. A local version of the Bloody Mary game appeared. Stand in the dark and say, "Black Aggie," into a mirror 3 times. You wouldn't summon a queen or a witch, but the terrifying stony spirit of the statue itself, pulled from the cemetery and right into your home through the looking glass. The Agnes family, whose grave the statue marked, became so disturbed by the constant vandalism and macabre rituals that in 1967, they donated Black Aggie to the Smithsonian, where she now sits in a courtyard, far away from any graveyard. Not all mirror spirits are born from rumors and ghost stories. Some are forged from pure, white-hot rage. In Venezuela, there's a legend of a spirit so vengeful, she serves as a terrifying warning against infidelity. They call her La Sayona. Unlike Bloody Mary, you don't summon La Sayona. She chooses her victims, and she preys exclusively on unfaithful men. The story goes that she was once a beautiful mortal woman named Casilda. She lived in a small village, happily married with a young son. But her idyllic life was shattered when a jealous man who coveted her whispered a horrible lie in her ear that her husband was having an affair with her own mother. Blinded by a rage she couldn't control, a fury so intense it burned away everything she once was, Casilda ran home. She set her house ablaze, killing her sleeping husband and child inside. She then went to her mother's house and, without a word, struck her down with a machete. As her mother lay dying, she cursed Casilda. damning her to an eternity of hunting down cheating husbands to avenge all wronged women. Now, La Sayona is said to wander lonely roads at night. She appears as a stunningly beautiful woman, sometimes asking for a ride or a light for a cigarette. A man with infidelity on his mind might think it's his lucky night. He invites her into his car, perhaps catching her eye in the rearview mirror. But as he glances at her reflection, the illusion shatters. Instead of the beautiful woman he picked up, he sees her for what she truly is. A horrifying skeletal creature with a skull for a face, rotting teeth, and eyes that burn like coals from hell. Her attacks are always fatal, and she leaves the mangled bodies of her victims on the roadside as a gruesome warning to others. She is rage and jealousy given a physical form, a reminder that some sins create their own, very real monsters. The stories we've talked about so far are legends, folklore passed down through the years, but sometimes the most terrifying stories are the ones that are actually true. The idea of a killer coming for you through your mirror isn't just a horror movie trope. It really happened. And this final story is why you should never ever feel completely safe in front of your own reflection. The legend of Candyman, made famous by the 1992 horror film, is about a spirit you can summon by saying his name 5 times into a mirror. But the chilling inspiration for that film comes from the very real and tragic murder of Ruthie Mae McCoy in Chicago in 1987. Ruthie Mae lived in the ABLA housing projects. On the night of April 22nd, she made a frantic 911 call. In the transcript of that call, you can hear her desperate voice telling the dispatcher that someone was breaking into her apartment through her bathroom medicine cabinet. "They threw the cabinet down," she explained. "They want to come through the bathroom." The police, likely assuming the call was the rambling of a mentally ill woman, dispatched a car for a disturbance with a neighbor, not a high-priority home invasion. When they arrived, they knocked, but no one answered. Unwilling to break down the door, they left. And with that choice, Ruthie Mae was left alone with her killers. 2 days later, after a neighbor insisted they perform a wellness check, authorities finally forced their way into the apartment. They found Ruthie Mae McCoy dead. She had been shot 4 times. Investigators soon discovered the horrifying truth. Her killers had gotten into her apartment exactly the way she said they did. The housing projects had been built with a bizarre design flaw. The medicine cabinets in adjacent apartments were separated by nothing more than a flimsy, removable panel inside a shared pipe chase. It was a well-known secret among some residents that you could easily get from one apartment to another right through the wall. What the police had brushed off as a delusion was a terrifyingly real home invasion. Ruthie Mae wasn't seeing a ghost in her mirror. She was hearing her own killers breaking through from the other side. This horrifying event became a piece of local folklore, a true crime story that morphed into the urban legend of a killer who can travel through mirrors. It is bone-chilling proof that the most unsettling horror isn't supernatural, it's human. The monster isn't some spirit from another dimension. It's the person on the other side of the wall, just waiting for a chance to get in. From a vengeful queen to a childhood dare or a cursed statue, a wrathful spirit hunting the unfaithful, and the bone-chilling reality of a killer behind the glass. Mirrors have always held a dark and profound power in our minds. We see them as portals to other worlds, capable of trapping souls and showing us futures we would rather not see. They don't just reflect our faces, they reflect our deepest anxieties about identity, the unknown, and what might be lurking just beyond the veil of our perception. So, The next time you find yourself looking into a mirror and your own reflection stares back at you from a dimly lit room, pause for a moment. Feel the silence. Ask yourself, are you really alone? Or is something else looking back, just waiting for you to make a mistake, just waiting for you to say its name? Which of these mirror legends made you shiver the most? Do you have one from your hometown? Share it in the comments. I read every single one, and your story might become the next shadow we chase. And if you've ever dared to try the Bloody Mary ritual yourself, I want to know. What did you see staring back at you? Or did you chicken out before she could answer? If you're brave enough for one more ride into folklore, next we're driving down Route 5. The haunted hitchhiker, the spirits of the road, and a Chilean ghost story that's haunted travelers for generations. Don't miss The Hitchhiker of Route 5 or Chilean Ghost of Route 5 coming up next. Subscribe to Horror Across Borders and turn on the bell. We drop a brand new horror story every Friday. The next legend might be closer to your mirror or your highway than you think. Until then, keep the lights low, and whatever you do, don't say her name.